are fortunate to have a man who's going to be part of calling tonight's National League wildcard game in New York City, in Queens, nearby the Bronx, where he was, prior to Encarnacion's home run last night, the last guy to punctuate a win in a all-or-nothing playoff game with a walk-off home run. He's none other than all-time Yankee hero, Aaron Boone. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Rich?
How about that for an introduction?
Quite an introduction.
Well, I was one of those pinstripe fans that you elated on that 2003 night, Aaron.
Yeah, that was a good night.
What did you think about what happened last night, Aaron? What do you think Buck should have done? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, at the risk of piling on, Zach Britton's got to be in that game. And I thought when Brian Dunsing started the inning, when they first came back from commercial, I figured it was Britton. I saw the lefty at first, and then realizing it was Brian Dunsing, and I was like, ooh, top of the order here, 11th inning. Up to this point, I think they used I think he pushed all the right buttons. I think he used all the right guys. But at that point, I felt like this has got to be Zach Britton now. And you go with them for as long as he can, maybe 2 innings, if you can, even more. But that felt like the time. Now the Dunsing works out. Okay, now they go to the bullpen. And when you go to Ubaldo, I know he's came in having pitched well down the stretch, but this is a new role. I mean, coming out of the bullpen, that's a different animal. And with Ubaldo, the issues he has are with command sometimes. So I don't think you can roll that dice against that part of the lineup at that point in the game with Zach Britton sitting down there. Now, once he gives up a hit, once he gives up the second hit, it's still not too late to bring in Britton. You now at that point need to get a ball on the ground, and Zach Britton's as good as anyone at getting the ball on the ground. And even against that part of the lineup with that sinker, that's your best chance because you're really up against it now with a couple runners on and the meat of the order coming up. So I was stunned that we don't ever see him in that game, and unfortunately for Buck, I think it's a question he's going to have to answer probably for the rest of his life. So
if you had the druthers to turn the Wayback Machine, you would have started the 11th with Britton, or you'd have brought him in the middle of the meltdown?
I think I start the inning with him in the 11th. Actually, Dan Schulman and I are sitting there watching it, texting back and forth with each other, and we're like, oh, we were shocked when it was Dunsing. And I felt like, yeah, the 11th, you've used all your good relievers, Brock and O'Day, all, I think, the correct choices. But now at that point, I thought it was time to go with Britton. And after a couple innings, if you still haven't scored and you're in that situation, then I think you hand the keys over to Ubaldo starting an inning, and then you're going to ride him as long as he can go. But I think Britton had to be in that game at that point.
Aaron Boone joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So now what happens with Toronto and Texas? How do you handicap that one with these two teams that we all know, to use the Keith Jackson phrase, plain don't like each other? What do you think about that one?
Yeah, hopefully nothing bad from an incident standpoint happens. Look, I think this is one of the great things about not just baseball but sport is, when you have two teams that don't care for each other. It's going to be emotionally charged, and especially with so much on the line, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Do
you think do you think the managers say something to the team and say don't do anything stupid, or they just let it ride and the players will just police themselves again, and something like this could happen in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think much is said. Look, at this point in the season, and a lot of that is probably been handled and taken care of and behind both of these clubs. Now, something could happen within the course of a game in this series that could stoke the flames again, but I don't expect any initiating from either side. I think it's over with from that standpoint, but clearly these two teams, don't care for each other, and hopefully, that adds to the drama a little bit in what should be a really great series.
Aaron Boone here on the Rich Eisen Show. Giants-Mets tonight on the Worldwide Leader. What do you think happens this evening at Citi Field?
Well, we got a heavyweight pitching matchup, which is pretty exciting, and obviously, Bumgarner's postseason record is well documented, and he's coming off a great year. But to get 4 going on the other side for the Mets, I know they're very optimistic. They're very confident. Just being at the workout yesterday, I think a key for Syndergaard is going to be the Giants. Their lineup certainly isn't a juggernaut by any means, and they don't hit the ball out of the ballpark. But one thing they do is they walk a lot, and they don't strike out, which is a kind of a rare combination. So I think it's really important for Syndergaard when he's ahead in the count to continue to pound the strike zone and not feel like, oh, I got to strike these guys out, because they're good at putting it in play. But avoid the 2-2, 3-2, 6, 7, 8 pitch at bats. Don't be afraid to attack the zone on 0-2 counts, and I think that'll give him the best shot of getting deep into this ball game. And then if and when guys do get on base against him, how does the running game manifest itself against him? He's given up 48 stolen bases, like by far the most in the game. The Giants don't run a lot, but I think they will push the envelope a little bit in the running game if they get some opportunities. So how does he control that, and how does that affect him?
Aaron, I rarely tell analysts how to do their job, but maybe you should work in tonight the factor that you didn't mention, which is the Mets riding the wave of Tim Tebow being elevated to the Arizona Fall League. Aaron, where does that rank? Where does that one rank?
That will open up the third inning for us. We'll be discussing that.
You just tell Dan. You tell Shulman, Dan, I got it coming out of break in the third inning. Okay,
exactly.
And then drop that one.
Exactly.
See how it flies. I think that, again, I'm just spitballing right here. Which team is the one that Cubs fans should be scared about the most in either league to try and derail their greatest shot of maybe their lifetimes of having the World Series?
I think the Giants are a little scary if they get past this game, because from a starting rotation standpoint, they can match up a little bit. And if they were to, say, go to Chicago in those first 2 games with, say, Cueto and Samardzija or Cueto and Moore, and win one of those games and have Madison Bumgarner waiting for Game 3 in San Francisco in that 5-game series, that can kind of sneak up on you. I think the Cubs are, hands down the best team in the playoffs. But, that 5-game series, you lose a game, maybe you shouldn't all of a sudden, and that it can get a little dicey in a hurry, especially with a team as seasoned as the Giants, if they were to be able to get in with the starting pitching that they do have as well.
And before I let you go, walk me through that at-bat in the 11th inning of that Game 7 of the 2003 American League Championship Series. Not just for me, but I have a comrade here on the set who's particularly interested in knowing that from the New England area. Aaron, what was that like stepping in against Wakefield? What were you thinking in that at-bat?
Well, so I'm leading off the inning, and I've had 0 success off of Tim down the stretch, and I faced him a ton, and Tim was having a great series. So I was actually on my way to the plate, and I was going to take a pitch. And as I'm walking to the plate, I kind of changed my mind. I'm like, you know what? Don't overthink this. Get a good pitch to hit, whether that's the first one, the second one, the 7th one. Get a good pitch to hit. Happened to be the first one, and, ran into it.
You ran in, and as soon as you hit it, you knew it was touch 'em all, right, Aaron? Is that what you knew it?
I had a pretty good feeling about it, yeah.
And what is that like, running around the bases and hearing 55,000 New Yorkers go ape?
You know what? I wish I could tell you. It's one of those memories that just you can picture a lot of things that happen in your lifetime, and that's not one of them. I remember telling myself to try and look around and drink this in a little bit, but it is as foggy a memory for me as anything.
Aaron, thanks for calling in. It's amazing too that I know you were talking about this game tonight on various other outlets as well, and it's amazing how it all happens that Encarnacion hits the first such home run as yours in the playoffs.
Yeah, I've been getting blown up about that today, so
I'm sure.
Pretty cool.
Have a great cast tonight. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, man.
You got it. That's Aaron Boone here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.